back with Frostheart today, and we're starting part 2 of the book, which it says part 2 Pathfinder. So, chapter 13, Onward to the Horizon. The Frostheart tore across the snow sea like a shooting star. It hit a bump, and Ash was thrown right off his feet, slamming the deck hard. He'd never been on anything but still ground, and the rocking, undulating motions of the sleigh were providing quite the challenge. "You're going to have to find your snow legs quick if you're going to be any use around here," said the Sunstone engineer, a man named Yori, offering Ash a hand and laughing. His large moustache billowed in the breeze, doing an incredible impression of a Mersu's tusks. His face was lined in places that showed he was quick to smile. Ash gripped the side rail, taking in the wonder of the world that was flying by, the cold making tears stream from his eyes. There was not a cloud to be seen in the vivid blue sky, Mother Sun gleaming off the crisp white snow that stretched from horizon to horizon, a haze of light blurring the edges of the world. The Fira hunters told of how barren their territory was, how scarce resources were, but only now was Ash seeing it with his own eyes. The flat, featureless snow plains seemed to stretch on forever, with the odd lonely pine or turquoise ice crystal breaking up the endless white. Ash noticed a couple of crows following the sleigh from above. That was strange. 2 now. Ash's skin crawled, but he tried not to reach too much into the ill omen. Hurtlers sped in the wake of the Frostheart like fish following a whale, but thankfully the sleigh was far ahead of them. This was the best view Ash had ever had of the monsters, meaning he could see them without an immediate danger of being eaten. Their pale armoured skin looked rough as stone, their 6 eyes cold and unfathomable, heads low and unflinching as they charged relentlessly forward. A cold dread gnawed at Ash, stealing the wonder he had experienced a moment before. Won't they catch us?" Ash called out to a nearby crewman, who shielded his eyes to watch their pursuers. "These ones? Not likely. We've got a head start on them." Ash had been hoping for a definite "no, they will not catch us, Ash. You're completely safe and have nothing to worry about," but he supposed "not likely" would have to do. Ash tried to take his attention away from their pursuers, looking instead at the swinging Leviathan teeth the size of daggers and colourful flags that fluttered from the rigging. Feeling a bit more stable, Ash closed his eyes and let it all wash over him. He grinned from ear to ear. He even found a nervous thrill to the chase, thanks mostly to the comfortable lead they had. He gulped down the clean, fresh air, untainted by the smell of hundreds of people living in a confined space. The crisp chill of it hurt his throat, but not in an unpleasant way. His heart sang out with joy, beating like a drum, chanting like his song. So this is what it felt like to be free. It was incredible. "Not thinking of puking over the side, are you, Fireboy?" came an amused voice from behind him. Ash spun round, coming face to face with Luna. She was hanging upside down from the rigging, one eyebrow raised, her cloak flowing about her shoulders. Ash cried out. "I'm not that scary, am I?" she asked, spinning from the ropes and deftly landing on the deck. No, I didn't expect you to be so right there," Ash said. "I get that a lot. Don't really understand why. Probably my drifter blood, I reckon. Always sticking our nose into things, exploring's our nature, you know." A drifter? You can hear me, right? Am I mumbling or something?" Luna smiled, her tone teasing. "A drifter? It's my people. Well, the Frostheart crew are my people now, but Drifters is where I come from. My folks are waiting for me back home in the convoy, proud as pudding that their daughter is a Pathfinder." "Oh," Ash replied. This was a lot of information to take in at once. He searched for something to say, not wanting to seem like an ignorant outlander. What on earth was the convoy? But he needn't have bothered, as Luna had apparently already moved on to the next subject. "So, why'd you decide to hop aboard the Frostheart? Most people rather eat hot embers than leave their walls." Well, I didn't really have a choice," Ash mumbled, fiddling with the hem of his furs. "I was exiled." "Exiled?" Luna looked impressed. "My guardian too, but I left him behind." "Whoa, that's quite the list of achievements. You must be one bad customer." She gave him a teasing grin. "It wasn't fair. I hadn't done anything wrong," Ash protested. "Well, that's not technically true, but, well, it doesn't matter anyway. I want to try find my parents. They're out there somewhere, and I can only search them on a sleigh." "All this on account of your song weaving, I'd wager," Luna said, nodding sagely. "Yeah, I guess that's what it boils down to." "So, what exactly can you do?" "Do?" Ash said, confused. Well, I can forage pretty well and shoot a bow, kind of. And Luna laughed. No, I mean with your song weaving. Can you summon Leviathans? Can you make them do your bidding, chomp slaves in half and stuff? Luna had a huge smile as she spoke, her eyes burning with curiosity. It felt weird being able to talk to someone openly about song weaving. Truth be told, Ash didn't know if he could do those things, but he did know one thing, and that was that he didn't want to look bad in front of his new friend. Yeah, I can do that. Easy, he boasted, instantly regretting doing so when he saw her eyes light up. Go on then. What? Ash replied, knowing full well what she wanted. He was stalling for time. I want to see it. Make these hurtlers do a flip. She pointed to the hurtlers racing behind the sleigh, their vicious jaws snapping, their tongues whipping saliva in long trails behind them. Well, this was quite the situation he'd already managed to get himself into. Ash had successfully song-woven once in his life, and he hadn't really had to think about it. It had come easily, as natural as walking, or talking even. He had just sung his feelings. He'd talked with the Leviathans somehow, as mad as that sounded. He couldn't imagine it went much beyond that, well, except for being able to hide signs in the sky, apparently, but he didn't even know where to begin with that. Luna was watching him with an expectant glee. I don't know if I should, Ash began, a lifetime of being wary of singing out loud proving hard to shrug off. Most of the crew were paying him no mind, except for the scary-looking lady who had grumbled about Ash joining the crew. Kaelin, Ash had heard someone call her. She had short flaxen hair and narrow eyes that were in a perpetual frown, a long scar running through one, the eye now white and blind. Tree-like patterns were embroidered down the length of her robes, and tattoos of tree branches ran down her arms. She was regarding Ash with suspicion, as though she knew what he was contemplating, and she didn't like it, not one bit. Go on, Luna urged, before the hurtlers die of old age. Ash drew his shoulders back and took a deep breath. He sang the words, Do a flip, holding his hand out toward the Leviathans and wiggling his fingers for dramatic effect. The hurtlers did not do a flip. Ash looked at Luna with a hopeful smile. Luna raised a sceptical brow. You know, I don't believe your heart was fully in that. She was right. Ash hadn't really tried to song weave. It just still felt too dangerous. Look, I just don't think I should be song weaving whenever I feel like it, Ash began, although he would have loved that to have been the case. Maybe we should respect it a bit more. Kaelin was still glaring at him. Even though Ash wasn't facing her, he could feel the back of his neck getting hot. So, you can't make a Leviathan bite a sleigh in half then? Luna asked. Ash could feel his face burning red. Ah, it's all right, Luna added. My fault for being ignorant about song weavers. At least I heard of him, though. You clearly don't have a clue about us drifters, but stars above, how amazing would it be if you could control the Leviathans? The things I do. My enemies wouldn't stand a chance. You have lots of enemies? Ash asked. Well, no, not yet. Bound to have some if I could control Leviathans, though, right? And then I'd get the beasties to crush them into dust. Luna punched her fist into her palm, a manic smile on her face. I see, Ash said. He took a step away from her. Are you bothering our newest crew member with all your questions, Luna? Don't you have some navigating to be navigating? Captain Nook asked, strolling over, her peg leg clunking on the deck. Yes, Cap, Luna saluted. Then she winked at Ash and leaped into the rigging, clambering about like a squirrel. Don't mind her, Ash. She's just curious. Best navigator this side of the convoy, though. She could find a way out of a blizzard with a blindfold, that one. But it's time I introduce you to the rest of the crew, wouldn't you say? Ash gulped. Sure. The good Vulpes up there is my right-hand man, Master Pod. She gestured at the small fox-like creature who had taken over the steering, standing atop stacked crates so that he could reach the tiller. There are none so loyal and none so blisteringly adorable. Isn't that right, Master Pod? That is correct, Captain, he replied in his deep voice. Captain Nook led Ash into the middle of the large main deck. After a quick head count, Ash made out a crew of 11, not including himself. Some, including the ever-angry Kaelin, were concerning themselves with the rigging, making sure the sails were catching the prevailing winds, while Yori and his friend Yala, both hailing from the stronghold of Thudruk, were adjusting controls on the Sunstone engine on the upper deck. Others were busy on lookout duty, or were helping Luna with maps and charts, using various tools and compasses Ash had never seen before. The last few were milling around, clearly off shift, playing a board game that involved carved wooden pieces. Nook raised her hands to her mouth and bellowed, I say, crew, this poppet here is Ash. Say, how do you do, Ash? How do you do, Ash? the crew said in unison, barely even raising their heads before returning to their tasks. And Ash, as you may have guessed, this is the crew. Jolly good. Glad that's all over with. She placed on her hips at the job well done. Oh, and how I could forget. Please follow me. Ash grabbed his things and followed. They climbed the stairs to the upper deck where the sunstone engine sat humming away. Yori, lower the sunstone power, if you be so kind. Alas, the Fear had no sunstones to trade. All we have in reserve is the last shiny lovely in the hold. So, steady as she goes. Aye, aye, Captain, he said, adjusting levers and dials. As the sleigh slowed, it gave a sudden violent shake, as though something unimaginably huge had rammed it from underneath. Captain Nook pondered this. Let's not lower it by too much, though. We must keep our lead in the race against the beasties. A number of hide-covered tents gathered around the warmth of the sunstone engine, clearly the crew's sleeping quarters. Nook led Ash to the smallest tent of them all. Home sweet home, eh? This is your tent. Settle in and come and talk to me afterwards. It's time to put you to work, my dear boy. Thank you, Ash said. The tent was only being used to store extra kegs of grog anyway. No, I mean, thank you for taking me on board, for not treating me like everyone else did. Nook smiled sadly. You are most welcome, Ash, my boy. Ash had one last thing he wanted to ask. He took a deep breath, trying hard to build up his courage. He had a question burning in the back of his mind since the Frostheart had pulled into the Fear stronghold, but he hadn't had the chance or the guts to ask it. Now was the time. Do you know what happened to the Pathfinder sleigh Trailblazer? The words rushed from his mouth. He was afraid of the answer now that he'd asked it. Nook looked surprised. It was the sleigh my mother captained. My parents were Pathfinders too. They left one day when I was very little, and all anyone will tell me is that they went on a Pathfinder run and didn't want to risk taking me, but they never came back. Nook nodded with understanding, her brow rising in sympathy. Well, it's not unheard of for sleighs to go missing. It's a very dangerous world out there. It tries its hardest to kill those that venture out into it, and unfortunately, that tends to be us Pathfinders. I've heard of that sleigh, being as it was one of the few that made regular trips to the Fear before we took over the mantle. I know little of it, however. Oh, Ash said. That's not necessarily bad news, Nook tried to reassure him. There may have been sleighs and crews throughout history, and sleighs' names can change too. The Pathfinder Council reside at Aurora, and there you'll find the Pathfinder records. Perhaps when we arrive we can take a look. Master Pod will take you, I do not doubt. He never stops going on about how much he enjoys flipping through the records. Ash gazed up at the bridge, where the Vulpes stood stern and silent. Okay, maybe this is a good thing. It doesn't mean they're dead. I would know. I don't know how, but I would, Ash thought, trying to reassure himself. Captain Nook laid a hand on Ash's shoulder. Your parents were brave people, Ash. It takes some guts and gusto to be a Pathfinder. She grinned at this, her mouth curling up behind her huge tusks. And I suppose that makes you brave, or foolish too. You're one of us now. It seems for better or for worse. I'm sure your parents would be proud. I'm willing to do anything to find them, to find out who I am and where I belong, Ash said. Nook nodded. Aye, I'll bet you are. Ash gave a brave smile and then ducked under his tent flap, and what he saw within nearly made him jump out of his skin. See what's in there next time.